I'm Vernay Gypsy from Earth Keepers Connect Goa, your host for this evening, the eighth day of the pre-summit webinars leading up to the New Earth Summit in November. It is the second edition of India's first integrative summit on solutions to our problems in health, food, farming, and the environment. I extend a warm welcome to our esteemed panelists of this evening on behalf of our summit convener, Daryl D'Souza, and also on behalf of our 10 Earthkeeper groups in India and overseas. And we express our gratitude to you for taking out time from your busy schedules to be with us and share your wisdom so that all watching this webinar and its recording later may live healthier lives. Our topic for today is natural medicine-based wellness tourism. I will start by introducing our panelists to the audience. Feli Gomes. Feli Gomes is a yoga instructor, public speaker, environmentalist, social entrepreneur, and the founder of the NGO Live Happy. He looks for practical and sustainable community solutions. The ethos is derived from the importance of living a clean, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Bhumi Putra, son of the soil, hailing from the village of Asagaon, he has been working to preserve, protect, and restore his sacred motherland through a holistic approach. After enhancing his understanding on yoga across various centers in the country, he is now doing his research at the SVYSA Yoga University. Feli has also been traveling around the world spreading yogic knowledge and the sustainable village model. He is always connected to his people and the soil. Dr. Feroz Varun. Dr. Feroz Varun MD, are you? Is a fourth generation Ayurveda physician from a traditional Ayurveda family based in Thrissur, Kerala. He has a BA MS degree from Sri Dharmasthala Manjunatheshwara College of Ayurveda, Hassan, a postgraduate MD from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Science, Bangalore. He was associate professor in Shantigiri Ayurveda Medical College, Palakkad, PNNM Ayurveda Medical College, Shornur, and has 12 years of clinical experience in Panchakarma and other traditional Ayurveda therapies. Dr. Feroz assisted with famous Visha, toxicology, Vaidya, late Avana Panbu, Maheshwaran, Nambudi, Ripadu, and Ashta Vaidyan Divakaran Moose from 2012 to 2014. He did research work on management of psoriasis during post-graduation. He currently works as consultant and head of the Ayurveda department at the Swaswara Wellness Resort in Gokarna, which is part of the CGH Earth Group. Daryl D'Souza. Daryl D'Souza's reversal from 14 years of sickness to a state of complete well-being within just 1 year of using integrated natural therapies is a story that has inspired millions across the globe to lead healthier lives. His book, Become Healthy or Extinct, on curing chronic illnesses with integrated natural therapies, finds readership in close to 200 countries. Daryl does disease reversal workshops all across India. And he also served a 5-year term as the secretary of the World United Doctors and Healers Association. He hosted platforms and events for doctors, healers, and therapists to work together and has curated and convened 4 mind, body, and spirit healing conferences. Daryl is also an organic farmer, an environmentalist, a TEDx speaker, founder of Earth Keepers Connect, convener of the New Earth Summit, co-founder of the Mani Padma Foundation, and a speaker at the World Parliaments on Spirituality. Sanjay Sachdeva is an MBA from FMS Delhi, and with a diverse educational background in various medical forms in healthcare education, Sanjay brings together 35 years of corporate business experience. He is a medpreneur with a different approach to wellness, which according to him is not a medical fix, but a way of living, an integrated lifestyle approach, sensitive and responsive to all dimensions of body, mind, and spirit. He is the founder and director of Daivam Wellness, a unique functional medicine center in Gurgaon, and his main focus is on non-toxic therapies for treating cardiometabolic chronic lifestyle diseases and building immunity. He is a member of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine and on the advisory panel of various health and wellness platforms. So now we will begin the 3 rounds of questions for our panelists that will conclude in 1 hour so that we can keep the next hour for Q&A with the audience. Accordingly, I request each panelist to address each question in a maximum of 5 minutes. To our audience and attendees, if you would like to receive the recorded video of this webinar, please visit earthkeepersconnect.org and click allow to subscribe to notifications from our mobile news app. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, The New Earth Summit, for the recording of this webinar. Our audience need not wait for 7 p.m. to type their questions in the Q&A box below. So here are our questions for the panelists. Do you feel that allopathic medicines and doctors and hospitals have failed to cure people of chronic illnesses like high BP, cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, and heart disease? If yes, then what about their approach do you feel is not working? I request Mr. Sachdeva to begin.
Thank you so much, Warner, for introducing us, and thank you for the time. I have been actually a victim, or my family has been a victim of allopathic medicine, or the fallout of it for the last many years. And about 10 years ago, I left my MBA and law degrees from Stanford and all these places, and I started to study medicine. And that was natural medicine. So I had to find a way other than the allopathic medicine, because somehow I realized that after having lost 17 people in my friends and family to allopathic medicine, that there must be something wrong. Everybody cannot just die, because they go to hospital with one disease and they don't come back, or they come back with another. And this primarily happens because allopathic medicine never really got to the bottom of why of the why. Why is the disease happening? Why is our hormones out of balance? And they were always treating the symptoms. They were not ever getting to the root cause of the problem. So they were always treating the fish and not changing the water, literally like that. And this was acknowledged about 7-8 years ago. I met a doctor at Stanford University, Professor Leonardis, who said that almost 85% or 90% of the research that is published in the allopathic world is actually manipulated by the pharma companies. 7 out of the 9 people in the US FDA that approve allopathic drugs and medicines and vaccines are from the pharma industry background. 32% of Donald Trump's election was funded by the pharma industry. So where is the trust factor that will ever go into proving that the allopathic world is doing its bit? Hippocrates taught us all, taught all the doctors to take an oath, do no harm. But allopathic medicine is doing exactly the opposite. It starts with doing harm and it continues to do harm, and it keeps you on medication for life. At the center we opened, I'm just diverting for one moment to another side. We do not believe that a patient needs to come back after 3 months. Once you are well, you take charge of your life, you get empowered, and then you are on your own. You don't need to keep coming back your whole life. You don't need to be on medication for the rest of your life for cardiac, diabetes, cancer, or many of these cardiometabolic diseases. So obviously, my belief was further strengthened with the news on TV and US doctors declaring that almost 15,000 people, well, so let's go back a step. The leading cause of death in the United States is heart disease. The second leading cause of death is cancer or lung disease. The third leading cause of death, well, guess what? It's MD doctors. 15,000 people a month are being killed by legally qualified MD doctors who are prescribing legally manufactured medicines. Unlike India, where there could be doctors who are not legally qualified and they're prescribing medicines which are not pure or genuine. But in the US, there are always genuine medicines available. 15,000 people a month are dying not because of reactions to medicine, but because they're slowly getting poisoned, and the side effects of the medicine are documented now. And that's how much loss is being done by the allopathic industry. 3,500 people die in the World Trade Tower accident, and America goes to war with the entire Muslim community in the world. But 15,000 people are being legally killed every month, and we can do nothing about it. That's the tragedy of allopathy. So that's where it's sort of failed to deliver what it was meant to be. And that is why other forms of natural medicine emerged, and the wellness industry came up suddenly in 1980s. That's my answer to the question.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Sachdeva. That was very interesting, especially the part where you mentioned treating a fish and not changing the water. That was quite interesting. And now I would request Dr. Feroz Varun to answer this question. Dr. Feroz, you're on mute.
Yeah. Yeah. Namaste. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, my view on this question, like it's like any kind of comments on whether any other science can cure that will be incorrect. Yes, I mean the contemporary medical system only. I'm not the right person because I don't have much knowledge on that allopathy system because I didn't learn that system. I'm basically from Ayurveda. But I would like to explain my understanding about medicine and treatment. What in today's scenario, what is happening? Medicine and treatment totally means such as some kind of external and internal interference which is used to change the unhealthy situation that exists in the body. If the body heals by itself, it is well and good. And we should provide support to the body for healing itself. And if most of the time body try to heal itself, only thing means we have to give some support. But when body cannot heal it by itself, it shows some symptoms, and the time medicine comes. But today the context of medicine is changed itself in such a way that any kind of substance that is used in the name of medicine, something which has to be taken for lifelong. Till the disease persisting, and the medicine you have to take lifelong. Like in the question, disease like blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, heart attack. I have seen medicines are prescribed, once prescribed, being taken throughout lifespan of that particular patient. Here I'll disagree with the concept that I cannot agree as medicine. These are not medicines. Medicine's concept means it has to cure the disease. That is some kind of external and internal interference that which has, we can classify if particular substance is not curing the things, means like we can classify it under supplement. We cannot classify it as a medicine. The supplement's main motto means it should keep the body in condition. So when a supplement is used to keep the body normalcy, how it can be named under medicine? And most of the so-called medicines create, we cannot categorize under medicine as I told. Most of these medicines or these supplements create a lot of complications in the system. It may be given for diabetes, but it may affect other organs. And we have to take some other medication for the other issues. It will totally disturb the whole system. If you're taking some medicine for one disease, you'll come up with some different disease. So we cannot classify these medicines, but this is the present scenario what we are facing now. This is my idea on this.
Great. Thank you, Doctor. This was very interesting. What you spoke about. Any substance as medicine has to be taken as lifelong. I would request Feli to take this forward. Feli, you're on mute.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Sachdeva and Dr. Firoz. How nicely you explained. Let me get back to again that it was very surprising for me that America in declaring terrorist their killings, that's been highlighted. But what mistake they do, the doctors in allopathy, that is not been highlighted because it's all like guinea pigs experiment, human being experiment, what is happening and precisely what is happening all over the world. Not going so far because for me, experiment meaning is always with my close friends and family, where I have seen when it was 10 years back where I was doing my experiment, where we're seeing this for the cancer, chemotherapy would come in, the healthy person on stage 1, how he would deplete to the core that I could see him on his good health, my friend with no drinking, no smoke, and he just diagnosed with stage 1, and then he leads directly to the deathbed. He suffered and is dead. Same with my auntie and couple of them. So what happened is that one fine day, my father has been detected from the throat cancer, and how the way it was like Daryl was my close mentor to counsel this. So it was a shattered moment for me, whereas I personally believe in this holistic approach of life and how do you deal with people who is subconsciously tamed in, like for example, my mother, it's no matter, she's not well, she just needs to go to doctor. And as soon as she goes to the doctor gives the irrelevant what's the tablet and what's the medicine, she's fine. So it's all in her mind. Like Dr. Firoz said, what is the medicine for long term? It's within ourselves to heal ourselves. So when I talked to my father, relating this, he said, no, doctor said it's stage 2 and we need to take chemo. So here I took a stand. I said, look, I just don't believe in chemo. I just don't believe in chemo prolonged. Firstly, you're going to shell out all your money, what you have. And secondly, you will die. And you will die suffering. You choose this. Or the third thing, what you choose is Ayurveda. So it was a very big, to break through the conscious mind of the people where so much allopathy, what doctor says. Of course, I'm not saying doctors are completely bad. Of course, if I break my leg and I need to go to surgery, not sit up for Ayurveda and do all the things. But this actually showed me after taking Ayurveda, the cancer was erased. Involved, the cancer was gone, plus the other elements which was there in the body, which was clean. But how do we, as doctor says, how do we convince the people, because there's so much been sold out there. So much we've been sold out there to the normal people, and where they don't, and thank God that we come from this land of Ayurveda, and it's so apparently supposed to be easier for us to get involved in all this, but said and done, there's still challenges. And yeah, because most of the part has been covered by the eminent people about how they have failed. Allopathy has failed over and over again by just giving the high technical names and getting the layperson as a guinea pig, as I say, you know. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Feli, for your personal life story. Now we will take this to Daryl.
Yes, thank you, Werner. I've had the same observation like the rest of our panelists about, allopathic medicines not being a cure. And I have called it, it's just a life support system. And not that it, even gets you higher, not that it supports you at the same level, but it's always a decline. And the people around you who are not on allopathic medicines, they are doing fine. So first observation is, yes, of course, it only treats symptoms. That's the first problem. And as you take these medicines for a long time, like my next door neighbor, he ended up with on dialysis with both his kidneys failed after about 6 to 7 years, taking pills just for headache. Okay, just once or twice a week headache. He started with Saradon, then he went on to something else, and he thought that was the only way to deal with it. Okay, so there was no education on what is giving him that headache. Okay, so bad enough. Yes, the system has such kind of side effects which create a lot of kidney problems, liver problems, heart problems, and all of that. But I think the fundamental thing that is missing in uh, the allopathic system is why people are and how uh, the and I don't blame the MBBS doctors also, because their work, I've got wonderful friends all across the world as doctors, but what they have learned is that their work starts when somebody comes in front of them saying that I have a problem that I cannot manage anymore. And the doctors have their qualifications and their toolkit. What I come from an engineering background, so they have a toolkit, and that's allopathic medicines. Okay, so they give you that stuff. So it's almost like they have no business with you till the time you get sick. They have not been trained to teach you how not to get sick. So I think that's the biggest thing missing in this so-called modern millions and billions of doctors and millions of dollars and billions of dollars being put into all of this. The basic education of how to remain healthy, that is not there at all. I think that's the biggest flaw. And then the next thing is like what I said, it's not a curative system, and it gets from bad to worse. First, it's medication, and then when you can't manage with medication, it goes to amputation, and then finally death. So I'll speak about this maybe later a little more about what can be the solution. But this is the biggest flaw that I see. People going through a lot of suffering, spending a lot of money, and not getting cured, because cured means that you do not have to take that thing for the rest of your life. That is a point that people miss. Everybody says I'm doing fine, but I'm taking these medicines. It means they're not doing fine, and they're on. I call them, you're on life support system. And the second bad part about it is that with these medicines, it disturbs the normal homeostasis and brings down the immunity of the human body. That is why now in the COVID time, you're listening so much to the word comorbid patients. Comorbid patients are dying. Why? Because they are also on high BP medication or diabetes or something for, their heart or their liver. And with all of these chemical medicines that are not natural to the human body, okay, they disturb immunity. So we have human beings who are living on this system with dysfunctional organs that are, supported like crutches by these medicines, and DNA gets severely damaged. And if people are going to have medicines from the age of 25, 26, or 28, 30, and they are going to make children at 35, we are making, defective DNA is making children. So you may say that, I've got 4 doctors in the family and I've got a lot of, I've got crores of money. I can afford medication for the rest of my life. And that's what literally people are doing. They don't have time to figure out how to be healthy. They think they have money and they have support and they go ahead with this. But we go ahead with broken DNA, and that's the next generation coming out even more sicker than us, getting high BP instead of, my father had high BP when he was about 50 years, but now you hear people having high BP at 38. So I think this is another glaring evidence of a system that is, not only not working for the current generation, but damaging our next generation too.
Thank you, Daryl. It was very interesting. Like Feli had spoken a lot about people changing their mind, and what you spoke about is people forgetting about, just waiting for a problem to happen, but what you call preventive maintenance, preventing it before it happens. So that was really very interesting. Now we'll move on to the next question, which is, how is your model of wellness structured, and how does it help with curing chronic illnesses? I would request Dr. Feroz to start the session. Dr. Feroz, are you with us?
He's on mute.
Yeah, I'm trying to reach out to him. Hello, Dr. Feroz. Your screen is frozen, I think. Otherwise, I can ask Feli to speak. Feli, if you take this one.
Very, very interesting as a model. Yeah, Daryl also was part of the model we've been doing for many years now. Firstly, at this point of time, how we create an awareness. So basically, in sharing the ancient yogic science, what I do, it's more important for me to understand, to revive how is to be earlier, how our ancestors is to give us. So there's something, only one model out of all the models, I would say, this beautiful thing where I take them for heritage walk. We do this heritage walk. In this walk, we show them indigenous medicinal herbs which are around, and many of them, they really connect back to the root. For example, in past, how many people used to fall sick every time? Very rarely used to happen, because in the lifestyle system where for example, we used to drink that kada, bitter, kings of bitter, atragophes, kadore, adulsa, for example, and this is abundantly which is grown in every villages. For example, I'm just talking about my village where I do my heritage work, but in 190 villages across Goa, for example, which is abundantly growing, and most of them have forgotten. Now, having this simple thing, every Sunday, our mother or the grandmother used to make and give us. And in this simple thing, our system has to be good and fine and boost in immune system. This was a simplicity which has been forgotten in this, even though, for example, nowadays, which I shared in the earlier webinar, while we take them for a walk, in this pandemic situation where even Baba Ramdev has done a big research on 200 people on coming up with a cure in short period of time by giving them ashwagandha, tulsi and giloy. Okay, and everybody's hyped about it. Oh, it's giloy. It's fine, giloy. And so my father bought 200 rupees giloy. I said, what are you doing? No, this is very rare and very potent and this and that. I said, just come out of the house. You can see that creeper hanging out. That is called giloy. Huh? It's growing here. I said, yeah. Now this is the simple thing. This is not a rocket science where to boost our immune system, and thank God we can even eat mud and be still strong. Not mud, but what I'm saying is our immune system is quite strong. But these simple things, and just popping in tablets every time just because doctor said, every time, I'm just giving an example, core example, what is happening in the house, because whatever's happening in my house, happening in 85% of the house across Goa, I would say, because we have a typical Goan family. If we give this holistic approach from the house, it's not believed. If doctor say something, oh, you have to take that, and this big technical term, this big medicine term, and they're like, oh yes, it's that is healing. This is the sad affair what is going on right now, and saying as a model by even sharing of the ancient yogic science. Also, when I take for a walk, I share them about pranayam, how important is how we are connected to the trees, how we can heal through trees, and how the trees are healing us, and what is the importance of the indigenous medicinal herbs which are growing, and identifying them. And even I don't know, there are hundreds of them, even I don't know, but when we meet, we share. And this is one of the models and getting people back to the nature, because the true nature, what is our nature? Our true nature is Mother Nature, what's been forgotten, and coming back and connecting to it, so that Mother Nature tells us within what is the importance. Because as doctor said, earlier, Dr. Varun said that it's about within. We have the healing power within, not the external substance what we take as a support, but understanding what is our ailment and what is the root cause. Well, doctors won't say where is your root cause. So understand that and finding the solution by yourself, and that's the model I share.
Thank you, Feli. That was very interesting about everyone changing towards a holistic approach. I would request Mr. Sachdeva to take this forward.
Thank you so much. So you see, according to us, diseases are classified into chronic illnesses and infective illnesses. Infective illnesses is something that we were not taking up earlier because it's not a part of our holistic program, and we were only focused on chronic disease management. Chronic lifestyle diseases usually come over a period of time. They are not, they don't develop overnight, and they are because of our imperfect lifestyle that we lead. When you lead imperfect lives, your system starts to slow down slowly. In our project, we identified the single root cause of all chronic illnesses as being inflammation or systemic inflammation or chronic inflammation, which happens from the beginning. So it's like if I slap you, you will get a little red mark here, and I slap you 3 times, you'll get a little darker red mark. I hit you again and again and again for 1 hour, it will get into an injury. After 1 hour, if I'm doing it 24 hours, it will get into a worse injury and you might need stitches. If you keep doing it for 1 month or 1 year, you can imagine what will happen. And that's what we are doing to our bodies. So if we are unable to stem the systemic inflammation which is happening in the body, we will get chronic disease. Unfortunately, the attempt to stem chronic disease has been imperfectly addressed by the system that we just talked about. And unlike, for example, let's take the case of diabetes. Now, 31% of India is diabetic, and another 12% is pre-diabetic, which is nearly half the population. So 43% of India, which is almost 60 crore people, are diabetic or pre-diabetic. And for type 2 diabetes, which is 85% or 90% of the total diabetics in India, the cure that is being prescribed is insulin and medications. Now, type 2 diabetes is a case where insulin is being produced in the body, but it is not being absorbed or utilized in the proper manner. And therefore, the cure for that cannot be insulin, further insulin. So what we are doing is we are giving the opposite of what is required, and we are loading the body with more insulin. Ultimately, the pancreas just give up, and then they don't, and you keep increasing the dose of insulin from 10 units to 40 units to 50 units to 100 units a day. And then you get into other chronic diseases, which is kidney disease and heart disease and all sorts of other complications that happen. This is just one example. Because we are unable to address the systemic cause of inflammation, we are not able to address that disease. So what we do in our center is to find that cause of inflammation. Why is it happening in the body? Once you are able to address it, then you have to treat it. And the treatment of it is always starting from three areas. One is the gut. We always address the gut first because that's the root cause. The 70% of our immunity also, like Daryl described, is in the gut. Daryl talked about immunity a little while ago. And so if your gut is not addressed properly or it's not balanced with the right microbiota, you will get sick. And chronic disease happens to start from there. And then, of course, second thing is the mind. We often ignore the mind. So it's not just that your nutrition and the diet that you're having is important to treat in terms of an anti-inflammatory diet, but every thought that goes into your mind, every thing that you watch on TV, every news that you read, every thing that you hear in terms of gossip or whatever your in unnecessary thoughts that you're getting, they are all contributing to the nutrition that you're getting. Every cream that you put on your skin, every makeup that you put on your face, every sunscreen that you put on your face, it is all adding to that chronic inflammation. A simple thing like aluminum utensils in the house is adding to chronic inflammation. We are rarely, I would say 99% of our modern hospitals are not measuring heavy metal toxicity load or BPA toxicity load. There is no test for BPA, which is plastic. It's used in manufacturing of plastic bottles and straws. We are not testing for BPA load on the body. Therefore, we are unable to really find out why is that inflammation happening. So the way to address chronic disease is finding out the root cause of inflammation, whether it is heavy metal toxicity, whether it is benzene that is causing it, whether it is plastic, whether it is your diet, whether it is what you're eating, what you're hearing, your sleep quality, your poop quality, etc. We see all those things and understand why the inflammation is happening. Once you discover the real cause of the inflammation, then you address it by multiple methodologies of treating through nutrition. And again, as I said, nutrition does not just include food. It includes intravenous nutrition, what you're putting on your skin, what you're taking into your mind. All of that includes in nutrition, including the company that you keep. It's all going into your mind. So that's the second part of it. First is, of course, food and gut. Second is mind, how we are looking at that. And the third part is the activity level of your life in terms of how you're connecting with nature and how you're connecting with the electron energy of the earth. We believe a lot in grounding and earthing. So we, from the activation of the vagus nerve to grounding and earthing, and then to finding out why that inflammation is not going down. So we address that through these methodologies. We also use a lot of ozone therapies, hyperbaric oxygen therapies, intravenous vitamin therapies. We use a lot of, acupuncture. All of these are methodologies to detoxify. Of course, we are using 20 different types of enemas and colon washes and cleansing of the gut, and then repopulating the gut with healthy microbiome. So those are few of the methodologies that we are using to treat chronic disease. That's how we address it.
Thank you, Mr. Sajjiva. It was good actually, because the media, what you spoke about was food and gut, mind and activities. What do you have to look at? Now I would request Daryl to take the question forward. Daryl, you're on mute.
Yes, thank you, Verna. So the way that I've been treating people, it started in 2005 after 14 years of my own sickness. And that time I was majorly on allopathic medicines, which, I got bad to worse and to a point of dying. And the thing that's really saved me was, first it was acupressure, which I was taught and I had to do on my own hands and some points on the body. Then it was natural organ cleanses, and then diet and nutrition. So from that time, I've been teaching people who first friends and family, and then when it became quite successful for all of these, chronic illnesses, high BP, cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, kidney stones, and appendix infection, and hormonal imbalance. So I had been using an integrated natural therapy kind of a system, which I used to do on weekends because I was still working in the field of engineering. Then after about 5 years with treating people for 5 years on weekends, then I decided to take it full time, and that's when I wrote my book, Become Healthy or Extinct. After that was somewhere in 2011. By the end of 2011, I completed it, um, and I had already been full time, off my engineering field and into wellness and treating people. So at that time, in 2012, I became the secretary of the World United, Doctors and Healers Association, and that's where we did more work through groups of people across India uh, to build a integrated system, which was bringing the best of modern medicine. And when we took modern medicine, we were taking mainly diagnostics and not treatment from allopathic medicines for chronic illnesses, because we could see that was not working. So we took diagnosis from the modern system, then the ancient systems like Ayurveda, complementary systems, and alternative systems too. And we kind of made it into a model for diagnosis and healing. So it involved at least four disciplines. So we wanted to treat mind, body, and spirit. So we, in the team, we would have a physical therapist, maybe it was an acupressurist or a yoga teacher or marma. Then we have for energy balance, for psychology and minding emotions, we used to have a, psychotherapist or counselor. Then the third discipline was an energy medicine person. That is people who can read energy and heal with energy, and people know it popularly as many systems: Reiki, pranic healing. um, and then the fourth was a medical doctor, MBBS, where they would look at the clinical diagnosis and through diagnostic systems and mainly see that everything followed a protocol and paperwork, evidence based diagnosis. And then the treatment system was also given as a joint. Even if it was simple diabetes, you would have an all rounded treatment for diabetes. And that model we shared, and people try to implement it in their clinics, the doctors getting in a couple of therapists with themselves. So I went through that kind of progression. And finally, speaking more on the topic, which is wellness tourism. In Goa last year, I spoke about this, and my presentation was there. It's still on a video YouTube channel, where I explained one feature that when you look for a healing environment and you look for relaxation, right? People from the city are trying to come to the village, and they're trying to go to Mahabaleshwar, trying to go to Goa, or trying to go to, uh, some hill station, Shimla, for the good air, for the greenery, for the pure food. So healing by itself happens in a good environment. And here we have the opposite happening. You see, village people are leaving the village and going to the cities for treatment, and then finally later stage for operation. So what's missing here in this model uh, is that these people were not given the right education of how to remain healthy. If the ancient village wisdom was used, like Peli said, if we could use our ancient village system, then these village people at least would not get sick and they could take care of themselves. But there's an opposite flow according to logic happening, you see. So people from the village are going to the overburdened cities, and then they go into hospitals, which is a very sick environment. There's a lot of overpopulation. There's, the air is bad over there. There's so much of stress in the city. So when I say wellness tourism, I talk about how can we get people more into these, into the villages. And last year I proposed that, that Goa should have about maybe 100 natural medicine wellness centers. And we need to take health to the people. People should not be running after health. So when I talk of wellness centers, fundamentally the first point has got to be, it's got to be an education center. It's got to educate people on what is healthy food, what are healthy practices, what are the stresses modern life bring, and how to mitigate them, how to meditate, how to be mindful, like Sanjay Sachdeva said, how to get earthing and grounding. Village is a place where you get clean air, clean water. If you look at it that way, And so wellness tourism means that if you try to do wellness centers in the, in the villages or in the countryside, you are automatically looking to keep the groundwater clean, to grow more trees, keep more pure air, and to also have organic food, because people know now, the packaged food products in the cities are the things that are going to kill you over a slow period of time. Also living in the concrete boxes, I call them the graveyards of humanity. So living in the, whether you're living at home or at a wellness retreat center in the village, you get grounding, you get time to move around, you get good air, you can get sunlight, and that is the kind of, thing I think people should come to. People generally want to come to the village just for a vacation, you see, but that if that will slowly change, that they can come for wellness, uh, then that is, I think, a really worthwhile model. And all that we need to do at these centers is get back. India's it is the birthplace of all of these natural systems, whether it is plant-based, medicine, or a healthy diet, or meditation, or deeper mind work and spiritual work. So I promote, even I run a center now here at in Kalangut, and we had 52 health programs for the entire year. That means 3 hours every Sunday. It was an education program on how to reverse diabetes, how to reverse obesity, cataract, glaucoma, bone problems was a separate program. So I think education must happen first. People need to know, and so many people take that information and they help themselves. And the majority of people want help. They want to get served. So that's where the centers come in, where people can feel rest assured that they don't need to do the research, because people are doing other things in life. They are working at a job, they are whatever they're doing. And so if they can come to a trusted place, and the trust is that if it's a natural space, and a natural center, that is some guarantee of success and something that matches with the human body. So that's the kind of model that I try to do at the center. Unfortunately, now with the lockdown, we are closed, but at least I do my workshops now as an online workshop on my website, Become Healthy or Extinct, for people sitting at home, and people have been going to the program, learning and doing it. Some percentage of people do it themselves. I've had cases reversing diabetes in 1.5, 2 months. People dropping, up 10 kgs body weight in 2.5, 3 months. So amazing results for those people who like to do the work themselves. But then the wellness centers should be there. Health should be. I think every village in every state, in every state in the country, every village should have at least 1, 2 natural wellness centers, where so there can be income all through the year, and they can also invite people from outside. So that's what I meant about wellness tourism. First, you build the facilities and the capacity to take care of your own people in your in your state, and then of course, if you do a good job, then people from all over the place are going to come to you. So it's a very good revenue model. It's a very good healthcare model, and I believe in self-sustenance and self-sufficiency rather than people traveling all of the over the world for health. Thank you.
Thank you. This was very interesting that from America is where all of this medicine is pushed to us, and now we have to start from the villages and push back. So I would request Dr. Feroz, if you would like to continue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Dr. Feroz, thank you.
Okay. So when you are dealing with chronic diseases, I use most of the Ayurveda treatment specialties. Because Ayurveda specialist, I use all treatment methods dealing with chronic illness. So Ayurveda is a science which works for the prevention of upcoming disorders. That is the main motto than the curative purpose. So this we do through the proper food habits, proper lifestyle, and proper regimens. There are different kind of regimens explained in Ayurveda to follow, like Dinacharya. Dinacharya means daily routine. Ritucharya means seasonal regimen, and different purificatory methods in timely purifications, like different season, different kind of purification methods. These methods will help to prevent the upcoming disorders for the human beings. And Ayurveda is considering human beings as a part of the nature. So whatever changes happening in the nature, like different calamities, different seasonal changes, uh, global warming, and all creatures are affecting these changes in the nature affecting all creatures. The same way it affects over the human beings also. So whenever you are doing proper methods, you can prevent the diseases, or you can reduce the severity of the illness if you're following proper methods. That's what Ayurveda mainly means. That's prevention. And next things, when you're coming into the wellness sector, so wellness concept means we have to prevent the disease. That is the main. That is prevention is the main concept of wellness. And in Ayurveda, here I used to when dealing with the chronic illnesses, we have a different treatment program like Panchakarma treatment program. Panchakarma is a special purification methods explained in chronic diseases Ayurveda. That is like purgation therapy, vomiting therapy, nasal medication. So, nasal medication is this, and bloodletting therapy. So different kind of purificatory methods are explained in Ayurveda. And as other panelists explained about the importance of the digestive thing, that in Ayurveda considering as this most of the cause for the most of the diseases are impaired digestion. So we used to say it's ama. Whenever the digestion is not proper, it will affect the total system. So it will create a lot of toxins in the body. So whenever a lot of toxins embedded in the body, it will invite a lot of diseases in the system. So that's what I explained. Few regimens we have to follow. That is starts with the Dinacharya. Dinacharya means from early morning till night, till before going to bed. What and all things you have to follow. There is a correct explanations are there. So from early morning till bed, and Ritucharya, that is seasonal regimens and purificatory methods. So these are some ideas we can follow to manage the disease and prevent the disease. And when I used to take the help of modern methods, like not in the treatment. For the diagnosis purpose, I'll take the helps of modern methods along with the Ayurveda. So it is help to diagnose the disease, and we cannot make a special classification for every disease. It depends on a disease, because in Ayurveda concept is different. So depending on the disease, we have treatment modalities changes. So we cannot go with a common parameter for all disease. So these are some practices we are doing here.
Thank you, Dr. Feroz. That was very interesting. Now, our next question is how can our viewers get in touch with you to know more about your wellness projects? So, Mrs. Sachdeva, if you would like to start.
Yes, you see, like Daryl and Feli also mentioned that a part of the healing process is going back to nature, is going back to where you originated from, where you belong to. So we realize also that unlike allopathic medicine or unlike modern medicine, this is not a single pill therapy. It's not like you take an injection or a pill and you get well, you go home and do it. The ideal way is to get out of your home and into a resort sort of a setting, which takes you back to nature from the cities, and you stay there for 21 days. The ideal time to change a habit or to form a habit. Since most of the chronic diseases are because of bad lifestyle, we have to change our lifestyle to good lifestyle in order to get well. To change lifestyle, you have to change habits. To change habit, you have to spend 21 days minimum in order to get used to learning something new. And then you repeatedly do it, then that habit becomes more like it becomes a part of you. And when it becomes a part of you, it becomes your destiny or your health destiny. So it's the first important thing is to uh, to build locations and resorts like this, which take you back into wellness. The second thing is that we realize that unless you uh, unless you change the definition of a wellness holiday or a wellness sabbatical, what I call, from being a pure spa, massage, relaxation, and just good food into the new definition post COVID. I think people are now realizing that 65 to 70% of the people who travel internationally or who travel within India to, you can say, a 3-star plus resort have compromised immunity. This was an article recently in some Times of India or Hindustan Times, that 65 to 70% have compromised immunity. These are the people, I'm not talking of the poor population who have much stronger immunity, but of most of the city dwellers who have weak guts. So we realize that this is important to create those destination sites. And without that, you cannot really deliver change lifestyle. So we tied up with a brand called Niramaya, which has got 8 retreats across India, and and we converted these from what we call as spa tourism to pure reversal of chronic disease, serious healthcare, NABH approved hospitals in a way. So there are 5-star resorts from $200 a night to $400 a night, that level. And they are now converted into proper NABH hospitals and retreats from Himachal, Solan to Kumarakom to Kovalam to Thekadi to Jaipur, Udaipur, Jodhpur, and Goa. Goa is just coming up actually now. So these 8 resorts will offer all the programs of functional medicine uh, from reversing metal toxicity to reversing diabetes to reversing chronic inflammation for cardiac diseases, for reversing stage 1 and stage 2 cancers, from and reversing what we call as metabolic obesity, not just weight loss, but the metabolic defect which causes the obesity, to serious anxiety, which is now actually very prevalent in our clinic. Our calls for anxiety and depression have gone up by 60% in the last 3 months. So that's going to become a big problem because it's going to affect all of us who are anxious about the uncertainties that face us. So at some point of time, we'll all get hit with it. So it's important to address those issues now. So all these programs in about 7 different formats are offered at these retreats. Of course, our center in Gurgaon is a daycare center where you come in, you check in the morning and you check out by about 5 or 6 hours, and it's a complete day out. And then you repeat this every 4 or 5 days, and in about 21 days or 31 days or 60 days, depending on the disease that you come with, you are pretty much reversed in terms of pain management, gait analysis. We do complete rehab also. So we have a tie-up with Abhinav Bindra, rehab centers, and we do that inside the clinic. So all the clinics, and we're also doing a lot of, in the resorts, we're doing pulse electromagnetic field therapies through a German technology, which does vibrational therapies. So we correct cellular dysfunctions through vibrational therapies as well. So right from, we have also developed and patented in the US what we call as prescriptive mindfulness, which all of us know that meditation and mindfulness are very important part of healing, because without changing the mind and the thoughts, you cannot really alter the way we think and the way we express our expression of the genes. Until the epigenetics are involved in changing the expression, we cannot really heal ourselves. So what we developed was a thing called prescriptive mindfulness, where you understand the psychosomatic causes and the psycho-spiritual roots of the problem. When you identify the psycho-spiritual roots of the problem, along with other therapies such as the detoxification and the oxygen therapies and the IVs and all of that, you also have to understand the psycho-spiritual root of the problem. When you understand that, then you have to define. And so we built over 30,000 algorithms on the basis of which you prescribe certain mindfulness practices. So it's not that you just do pranayam or chanting or om chanting, or just go within and do meditation. Of course, that's good for all. But if you have specific ailments, then you need specific mindfulness practices. So do you do chanting 100 times or 3 times? What time of the day do you do breathing? What type of breathing? Vibhav breathing or pranayam? So you have to define all those. Those are all patented practices now. So all of those are available in these resorts across India now. And we unfortunately had to close down, like Daryl said, even he had to shut down during this time. But from 1st October, we just opened back on 1st October, and we have started to get local tourism. So one of the things that is important to understand, I'm sorry, I'm exceeding 5 minutes by one more
Yeah,
minute.
we'll have to move to the next one now.
Yeah, okay, we'll carry on.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Sachdeva. That was very interesting, because now we take over the whole staycation and change it. So now I would ask Feli Gomes to answer this.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive, Sanjay.
Thank
It's
you.
nice. I was very much taken up by his algorithms and when and how pranayam and what sort of chanting. That's pretty interesting to know, Daryl, which will follow up with you later, and we're going to catch up. So what we run an NGO called Live Happy in our village, and Daryl also is a part of the board member, and we've been doing it for past 7 to 8 years. And our aim is to create a sustainable village model. So under that, we look after the social issues. We put all the people aware citizen under one platform, and they talk about the social issues and come up with a asset-based solution. For our concern, main point is the health is our concern. So we in process, we have a lot of workshops also happening. Then we run a school for 30 less privileged children. Now, of course, they go to the normal school, but what we take care in a form of tuition. So for 1 hour, we have our academic year, and another 1.5 hours we give on the behavioral activities. So we have a teacher, we have counselor, we have mindfulness and meditation faculty. So in this way, the point is we are trying to make is we are securing the children so they can be the better future of the village. And more important than that is that we are crafting, for me personal, I craft this entire model where we share a lot of dancing, singing, because we Goans are full of liveliness, of this joy and celebration, which has been forgotten, because right now when we're talking about sustainable village model, we live with a lot of gated communities, and those things are getting lost. And it's one thing good that it can be a alternative health destination. Like Asagaon is a Babylon of India, of Goa. All these high-end people which comes with expensive villas and gated communities, and this can be a real. They come here for a reason, because it's 2% less temperature than outside surrounding of the villages. So to protect this, to preserve this, to restore this, our NGO is working in this line, so that we teach this to children, especially about the biodiversity, our indigenous medicinal herbs, our trees, our butterflies, our birds, our animals, our reptiles. So this is the knowledge what we share in this. What I do is this heritage walk, where I approach in a form of a walk, but it's more sort of a health walk what we do. And besides that, of course, we have a yoga and meditation happening in our happy home, what we run in my house. So we opened something called Happy Home. In there, we run a school as well as all these workshops. Yeah, there are many things to say, but this is, if anybody's interested to come and share the moment in our village, please be my guest and come and help us grow and enhance our module more. Thank you. It's
Thank you,
called
Felipe.
livehappyngo.com.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can type it there, and I would ask Daryl to give his answer to this.
Yes, the way people can access what I do for them in health is, go to my website, becomehealthyorextinct.com. And the first thing over there is to download my book, because that will give you a lot of basics of, preventive. That is how to prevent yourself from getting illnesses. Now, people can use that, and, like I said, it depends on the amount of work a person wants to do. And generally, people don't want to do a lot of work. So at least with the book, if you are a borderline case of diabetes, obesity, and all of that, you can get the book, go through it, start doing some work yourself and fix your problem at home now, especially because it's, COVID time. But I think that, people will also be benefited by getting a lot of support from going to wellness centers. And it's easier if it's something is there in your area. And just like people have different budgets, there are different levels of people in society having different income levels and different time that they can give to health. So I think in every state there has to be different levels of treatment centers. And there will be some people who are used to 5-star service, some people who are used to 3-star service, and some people whose pockets cannot afford even 3-star or 2-star. Then they go for something simpler. I think it's very sensible and logical that everybody at their level should be given a kind of a facility, or a center where they can go and get the right kind of advice and treatments. Whether it's like a daycare, like Mr. Sachdeva mentioned, they have that daycare facility too. So and it's easier if you I think this is got to be in people's minds. They have got to make kind of a talk about it and create a kind of movement in their own state where such centers come up, because if they don't, then people will have to travel various places to get treatment. And I look at so many other things in this wellness model, where you have to look at the carbon footprint also that's happening from you on the planet. How much are you traveling to get wellness treatment? So I have this very clear kind of a picture of a ideal wellness center where education is a part of it. Then daycare, where you can come in and go out by the evening, and some where you can stay according to your budget for 3 days or 1 week, depending on your illness, or the magic 21 days, where you can transform your entire lifestyle and also reverse most of your illnesses and take back very good learning that you can implement, change your diets, get new recipes, go more towards a plant-based nutrition system, which is showing to be one of the best healing through diet. Um, so so the next level is that I have an online workshop, like I mentioned, for those who are in a hurry to learn some skills very fast. I teach acupressure also online in that workshop, diet and nutrition, the cleanses, and after the workshop, of course, my book is also there for a reference. So that's the starting steps. I think people, the reason I'm making this available is because I think people, they need a push, they need something, a hand to be given to them, and once they take it and they start the process, then they are in a process of learning and healing. And so I'm happy to do that for people. We don't have residential capacity so far at our wellness center, the Rejuvenation Center in Kalangut, and we're looking at that in the future. But I'm still happy for it to just put out a healthy model wellness, so that others also get inspired from it and perhaps take it up as a business to set up a local wellness center in their state or their village. So my ideas and movement are all towards bringing health to the people and making it accessible, in your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Now I would request Dr. Feroz to let us know how our viewers can get in touch with you regarding your projects.
Yeah. So our center is Swasthwara. It is located in between Goa and Mangalore, around 120 to 130 kilometers from Goa. It's named as Swasthwara. It's run by CGH Earth Group. And it is mainly, we have different Ayurveda programs here. We focus on disease revival program, detox program, and those who have, the people doesn't have any idea about Ayurveda, so they can come with, nowadays, most of the people are worried about detox treatment, like Panchakarma line of treatments and all. So for such people, we have a different programs like 7 days kind of program without including any immense detox treatment, but only external treatments. And this is a small village, as means like our panelist was saying about lifestyle disorders. Yeah, the name only came with different kind of lifestyle, only creating a lot of disorders. So before treatment, they have to change that particular lifestyle. So this is like a Kongan villa form we made, small hut kind of things, and here it's like in middle of a small forest. So clean air, everything. It's like not like a city life, but very good place we located. And coming into the treatment, and we are giving more importance for the food also, because in Ayurveda we are more when dealing with different diseases, food is very important. So we used to give a special diet here. So and we have different yoga plans here, like different yoga sessions depending upon the condition of the patient, and regular treatments we used to conduct here. Most probably we used to get diabetes patients, and after it's like osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, different skin disorders, many such kind of diseases we used to get. And this, when we are looking into the chronic illness, we used to suggest the 21 days, minimum 21 days detox program, because any chronic illness, when you're looking into the treatment, we need a long stay, and then only we can focus on the detox kind of treatment. And when you're looking into the food, we are in Ayurveda packages, we are using only vegetarian diet. We are
Understood, doctor. So mainly we wanted the details. So I've put your website up. If you can even add in any other details regarding your resort,
yeah,
and
sure.
then we can start with the question and answer session.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Thank you. So with the Q&A, we'll just start with the first question. Is quite a few. I've been having sinus blockage and throat pain from the month of May 2020, 6 months ongoing. It's basically inflammation, allergies. My eosinophils count is high, and upon taking steroids, I feel normal. Could not figure out what is acting as allergen. What would you suggest? Anyone who would like to take this? Because she also mentions drinking kada with turmeric, black pepper, and ginger, doing yoga and meditation. Don't want to depend on anti-inflammatories forever.
So I already addressed this. I answered her on the chat.
Oh, okay. I was showing answered. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Fine. So then we'll move to the open questions. One was here about, anyway, this is more like a statement. Some people are getting well at home and some paying heavy cost in hospital to come out of Corona.
I don't know what to say.
So yes, if I want to mention something about that, it was in an online a webinar that I did right in April. Why this is the case? So we are seeing that people with the highest immunity, uh, the virus is coming and going. They're not even noticing something happened. They just feel 1 2 days of discomfort. And people with the second little lower level of immunity, they're having the cough, cold, joint pains, and the flu, and probably with a little more rest and electral and some staying at home, they are able to tide it over. And then you have the third leg of people who are getting the breathlessness and thrombosis, and of course high fever, headache, body pain, joint pains. um, so they are the people who I see are having the lowest immunity. uh, Many of majority of them are comorbid or senior citizens, right? Senior citizens, because as you get older, your immunity also drops down if you are not active, if you are depressed for for some reason. So that's I think what's happening. So people are, of course, if you just stay at home, you're having lesser contact with people outside. So that's the first level of protection. So yeah, I think that it's mainly an immunity issue, and you will see that kind of results.
Right. Thank you, Darren. So the next question is, what about the vaccine coming with nanoparticles changing our DNA and storing data in 5G cloud? I mean, if anyone wants to take this.
So without getting into that technology and science, I've been reading a lot about it and seen a lot of videos. And yes, this is what is stated. Though the majority of the vaccine manufacturers are not saying anything about it, even which means that they are not saying that this is what they are doing, but it is supposedly what some of the even virologists are saying. Now, for me, very fundamentally, uh, the vaccine, I believe something more in a natural vaccine. For me, like a vaccine system is something like homeopathy. You introduce a little or a low dose of that same organism, and your body gets a little longer time to prepare antibodies and fight it. And then when the real infection comes on, you already have the antibodies. But as we see from the last 30, 40 years that vaccines have been made, they have got some of them have got mercury inside them, they've got pus cells, they've got aborted fetal cells, they've got so many things unnatural to the human body. And I know this part of human biology and science, that you cannot expect the very same antibody response for a different kind of molecule that you put inside the human body. Okay, so that's what the basic thing that I'm seeing with vaccines. That's why I'm also seeing all the reports that are coming out, which were not coming out earlier, because this issue is highlighted that 450,000 people at one time had children had negative reactions and health issues. Some soon, some later, some much later in life from vaccines. So I think that if we are making vaccines, they should be very transparent. The science should be clearly put out there for the people to know. Vaccines should not be having ethically. Vaccines should not be having certain unknown, hidden substances that have got a different agenda, as people are talking about. So I think this is all the onus of our main medical institutes in the country, like ICMR or IMA. They are the guardians of what is happening with these vaccines. I see India as one of the most ancient civilizations on this planet that had 4,000 years of Ayurveda behind it, and we should have been leaders in the world in showing how we can take care of health and viruses and all of these things with natural medicine. But how come that we are, spearheading and we are announcing the world, on 14th August that we want to be the first in the world to make these, modern kind of vaccines for all of this virus. Similarly, at the same time, that people are saying all of these viruses are coming out, through animals and from the jungle. But if you go and see the jungle people who are living in the Amazon forest or the Aboriginals or wherever across the planet, the indigenous tribes, they are not having viral attacks. Okay, neither do they have high BP, cholesterol, diabetes, or any of this. Okay, so there is something really missing in this whole scenario. How come the people who have the most viruses in jungles, they are not getting epidemics, and why are city people getting, going down or having all these cases suffering from viral attacks? Clearly, it is we are doing so many things wrong with our food, with our environment, with our stress, that our immunity has gone so low that anything that comes out of the forest is going to kill us. So, my direction is towards doing the right health practices, following integrated natural medicine if you're sick, healing your conditions, and just getting your immunity really high, and that will take care of all the viruses in the world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daryl. So the next question, I think this will go to Feli, which is what are the ingredients of kada and how do you make it?
So if you talk about a kada, what we used to do mostly is if you have a lemongrass at home or tulsi, so you put it and with cardamom, cinnamon, clove, and ginger. So see the amount what you put in. According to that, with that you put around 5 to 6 glasses in that, and in that you keep it for boiling. And that 5 to 6 glasses what you put had to decrease at least to 4 glasses to 3.5. Now that becomes very concentrated. Now once you dry it, cool it down, then you can mix, keep it the concentrated one. So these things what you can use, and have it, you can keep it also in the fridge. Once it's cool it down, you can keep it for fridge for 1 or 2 days, not more than that. So you can put little if it's more concentrated. If you put around 6 glasses and you condense it to 3 glasses, that means it's become very strong. So that you can remove it and put little and put in the glass with normal water and you can have it. Otherwise, if you're having giloy, like as I said, and I don't know how many people I would like to still introduce how giloy would look like. It's a normal creeper with a heart shape, which you're going to find another 20 of those things, same creeper, but there's not giloy. So you will understand how giloy would look like. It is a creeper, mostly on the trees or on the wire, but there's a fine thread. It will be quite fascinating to you all. A fine thread which will be coming out of a creeper. So that's one identity of the saying that that's a giloy. And secondly, the stem of that creeper, you'll see a fine skin on that. It's not a rough skin, it's a fine plain skin. Now if you cut that stem, cut the creeper, you're going to see inside there's a star shape. Now that is giloy. So you don't get confused. Some more information you can of course go for your Google group. Now if you put that this much, around 3 of them, you put around 3 glasses and boil it to around 1 glass, and then you have it. It will really boost your immune system. Please don't need to go to pharmacy and buy a bottle. Just go out, search for giloy. Otherwise, my number is put up there too. If you find something, please WhatsApp it to me so that I can identify for you all. And that's the way you can do kada of giloy itself. Otherwise, normally lemongrass, tulsi, ginger, cardamom, cinnamon, clove, just boil it. If you're having 4 glasses, just 2 glasses, and or else kiraite normally which just grows. I'm just considering this is in Goa. I don't know how many people are watching across the globe.
Across the world, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So because I 6 months spent my life in Spain, I never saw Spain. kiraite. So here kiraite, you just put a with leaves, little lemon for one person. You put 2 glasses and make 1.5 glass, and yeah, that will be a super booster.
Great. Thank you, Feli. The next question I would request Dr. Feroz to take is, which are the best herbs or medicinal plants to grow which have the highest value, obviously nutritional value or medicinal value?
So for a daily aspect, we can use that Tinospora cordifolia. So it's a Giloy. I think in Hindi it is known as a Giloy. That is very good for immunity boosting. The Latin name is Tinospora cordifolia. So it is very effectively using for preventing fever, and it is a good immunity booster, and it is having a good result on the arthritic issues and inflammatory diseases. So, you can use either the leaves, or leaves is a daily for daily use. You can use leaves. And next thing is the aloe vera. Even this aloe vera, you can use it as that aloe vera plant. You can cultivate. It is having a very good result on the uh, to healing the skin issues and in the wound and all. You can use. Next one is you can use the garden, that hibiscus plant. So that red flower comes with that hibiscus flower. So it is also that hibiscus flower is having a good action over the blood purifications. The toxins in that hibiscus flowers, toxins in the blood will be purified by the hibiscus flower. So you can make a herbal tea with this hibiscus flower. And these are some of the herbs you can do, and the ginger, turmeric, or you can cultivate in the home.
Thank you, Doctor. The next question is, which sprouts should one take regularly other than moong? Anybody can take this. Sanjay, you want to take this?
Other than moong, you said. So any whole dals, whole beans are good for sprouting. If you can do it in 2 or 3 days time, any of the whole moong dals, or there are a variety of about 11 of them, they are good for sprouting. Or the black chanas, they are very good, depending on what purpose you're looking for. Each sprouts have got different benefits for different things. It's not just all protein. Some have more protein, some have more other factors which are involved. So this is very specifically done. Of course, sprouts in general are good for everybody, but it's like what is good for the geese is not good for the gander. It's something you have to be specific about. But all whole moong or whole dals can be sprouted.
And also, this, what you call Kabuli chana, or that brown, horse gram, that's also good for sprouting. But you see, sprouts are very high energy food, and you will be able to tell if it's good for you or not good for you within 3 days. Okay. So don't mix different sprouts together if you are trying to do a test and see which is the sprout that's helping your health condition. Okay. So you take one of those things, have them 3 mornings in a row, and see how you're feeling. If you're feeling better, then maybe that could be the sprout that is going to do some good for you. Yeah. So moong is very good for digestive issues, for amoebic colitis, Crohn's disease, and all of that. Moong sprouts, even moong dal soup. Okay, so yeah, so try something for 2-3 days, and see if you're feeling good. Then you continue with it, and you can do it for just always take a break. So after 5 or 6 days, take a break of 3 days, and then try another sprout.
Thank you. The next question for Daryl is, how does one join your online workshop?
You can just go to my website, becomehealthyorextinct.com. And if that's a little long name to remember, just go to daryldesouza.com. You will find this website. As you click on it, there's a second tab after about or homepage is therapy. So there you will see my online workshop and with the details.
Thank you. The next question again is for Daryl. For Graves' disease, how does plant-based diet help complete reversal?
Yeah, so Graves is an autoimmune that causes hyperthyroid, and for thyroid, one of the things on my book, page 80, it says that avoid cruciferous vegetables, and that's in their raw form. Okay, so like ice lettuce or raw cabbage, raw broccoli. People have salads of those. Avoid that. You can have some of these sometimes if it's well cooked or in a soup that's well cooked. The second thing is you need to be on a healthy diet. So first thing is stop all these processed foods which have got chemicals, because everything goes down through the throat, right? And these chemicals are going to irritate your throat. So the first thing would be get off the processed foods from all of these malls. Try to get fresh foods, and if you can get fresh organic foods in local markets, that's a better thing. The second thing for thyroid is reduce your consumption of wheat and rice. Also, maybe what I ideally advise my patients are to have a millets for breakfast. Of course, first breakfast I always say is fruits, and then depending on your lifestyle, if you're still hungry at about 10, 11, then maybe you can have a millet roti with some bhaji or porridge. And uh, for lunch you can have semi-polished rice. I don't call it brown rice because there are some varieties of rice that are completely polished without any bran, without any fiber, but they're brown inside. So not necessarily that is good. We want little bran on it, little fiber going in with the rice. So that's for lunch, and at dinner time I advise millets. So I've seen most people who switch and bring in more millets in their diet and get off packaged food products, their thyroid problems start coming down. Then there's also, go to the acupressure chapter in my book and you'll see points to treat for your thyroid over here, and you can press those points for thyroid. There are also points on the foot. So do all of that. So regarding your diet, regarding acupressure, and move more towards natural things. And one more reason for people having low energy in their throat is people who are not able to speak what they want to or say what they want to because of either parental pressure or spouse. They're not able to express themselves against their spouse or voice their opinion. That always brings the energy of the throat down. So see if you have any stress or relationship issues in the house or outside, or maybe at your workplace, you're not able to, say something to your boss when something is wrong, you're not able to say it, and it happens all of the time. Then you're going to have weak energy, and also another reason for thyroid weakness. So work on that as well.
Thank you, Daryl. So I saw Feli was back with us. Feli? The next question actually is, panelists, please confirm benefits of ashwagandha and how to consume. Any suggested brand? Also suggest multivitamins for teenagers.
Say it again. What is
First
the dosage?
question is benefits of ashwagandha. I mean, Dr. Feroz also can answer this. And how to consume, any suggested brand. Second one is also suggest multivitamins for teenagers. Same question.
So ashwagandha.
Yeah, please continue.
No, Feroz, I'll just explain what it means, and you carry on with your technical terms of Ayurveda. Ashwagandha meaning the smell of horse. What it says in And what it means by Sanskrit thing, the smell of horse is you become vital and energized like horse. So that is very good in boosting your immune system. That's one part. But if you're stressed out, uh, low BP, really boost out to your energy and immune system is really good. And how much dosage depending in what is the reason you're taking, that maybe doctor will be the right position to carry on.
I've heard it's also very good for lung conditions, for better breathing capacity.
Yeah, especially in this moment is
For
very good.
COVID. Yes, especially for COVID. Yes, Dr. Firoz, would you like to comment on ashwagandha?
Yeah, Shugantha mainly using in Ayurveda mainly using for stress and anxiety disorders. So it is having a good action over the brain cells. It boosts the brain cells and rejuvenate the brain cells. And different forms, it is available like in Lehia form, that is a paste form, mixed with jaggery and all. It's ashwagandha and other ingredients and powder form. So I suggest single drug that ashwagandha powder. Maximum you can take 5 gram is enough. 5 to 10 gram is enough. That depending on disease changes. But if you want to take in a daily dose, you can take 5 gram at bedtime with milk. With the milk is best, and if doesn't like the milk, means with warm water, you can lukewarm water you can go with. It is it is having good property, like anti-aging. So whenever hearing about anti-aging, everyone will take, I am sure. And now Ayush Ministry has explained that this the COVID for COVID condition, ashwagandha is having a good result. I think that Daryl explained that it is having a good result of the lungs, because this COVID virus affects the lung tissues. So the ashwagandha always help for them. And other diseases like blood pressure, diabetes, and all condition we can use this ashwagandha. And it is a good energizer also. That is some of the benefits of ashwagandha.
Great, great. Thank you, Dr. Feroz. The next question, I believe Mr. Sachdeva would like to take this, is it a good decision to invest in these massage chairs at home for people who cannot go to spa treatments? If so, please suggest a good brand of chair to invest on.
Very difficult to suggest a brand, but massages are good expensive toy to have at home. It's a general sort of a relaxation for the whole body, but for specific conditions such as mobility issues and all that, you need to understand what muscles you need to stimulate and all that. So you need to go to a qualified therapist to really get a proper massage. Massage chair is not really enough. It's a good thing when you're walking around in a mall, you're tired, you just want to sit down for 10 minutes and have a little, rub. It's a good thing for that, but it's not a therapy. I don't think it's a therapy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the next question comes back to sprouts. Sprouts should not be consumed for people with high uric acid. Please confirm.
Daryl can address that better.
Yes.
Yes, people have seen that daily sprouts, increases their uric acid a bit. But then there are other things. There are other things you need to do to, balance your uric acid. Okay, so um, look at the rest. One of the main reasons that people have acidity is because of weak liver function. Okay, when you take in food, it's going to get acidified in the stomach. Hydrochloric acid is going to be made, and then that acidic food comes and is going through your duodenum. And most people have weak livers. Okay, so there's not enough bile production to neutralize it for it to then work further on your alkaline pancreatic enzymes to do the alkaline, part of digestion, breaking down fats and all of that. So people who are having for a healthy person who's got healthy liver function, stomach function, and decent digestion, they don't have any problem of uric acid by eating sprouts. Okay, And so the two things I said is that, and one I mentioned earlier, do not have any of these things for a prolonged time of 10, 15 days at a stretch. I always recommend, especially for sprouts, they are high energy. They've got their own very strong, enzymes. So take it for 2, 3 days or 4 days, take a break of 2 days, then you continue it again. And then you'll see that you will not get uric acid if you do it in a balanced way, but also strengthen your liver with acupressure. There are herbs. Milk thistle is a very good herb for curing, strengthening the liver, and you have herbal tonics also for strengthening the liver. Press the points on the hands and the feet, or go to a therapist. And I would second what Mr. Sachdeva has said about those, massage chairs. They are not the real kind of massage, because people's body size and all is different, and the amount of flesh and muscle they have. So that chair is not should not be used as a general regular massage chair. You better go to a body worker or a reflexologist or shiatsu practitioner to get a proper uh, body treatment.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just crossed my 50th birthday in September. So all the secrets are there. They are not secrets. They are actually very basic, strong living principles. And in my book, there's a chapter called reverse aging. Okay, so read that chapter, and you'll get all the things that I do. I do systemic things. I don't put cucumbers on my face. I've never done a face pack. I never do face makeup. I do not wear any deodorants, no creams, nothing. Um, and yeah, good health comes from from inside out. You have good food, you have good ideas, so you have excitement in your life, uh, a good amount of mobility, and you remain young for a long, long time.
Thank you. Yes. So, how can diabetics protect their immunity? Anyone would like to take this? I mean, it's more about how they should improve their immunity, actually.
Yes. So, any panelists? If not, I'll just mention something.
You can talk about it. I can answer, but I think you know it better. So
So we had, yeah, just the best thing would be is, get a recording, which was on day 2 of how the right way to reverse diabetes. The top 4, people in the country who are reversing diabetes were on that. So you'll get very good insights there. Um, so the thing is, the question, so this is in people's mind, they think that diabetes is an autoimmune disease. So normally they are trying to work at the immunity, okay? But you have to listen to the people who have reversed diabetes, not people who have been treating. I've been treating diabetes since 25 years. Look at the people who are saying I have reversed diabetes of my patients in 2-3 months. Okay, people have done it. One of our panelists, Dr. Nandita Shah, who has been doing programs at Swaswara retreat center where Dr. Firoz Varun works. She's got the 21 days reversal residential diabetes reversal program, and people have reversed diabetes over there. Some people take a little longer because they continue the program at home. So with regards to diabetes, there are certain things that we do mainly in our food, our choices of food, and a little bit of sedentary lifestyle. And if you undo those things, then you will see that sugar levels become normal. Okay, so diabetes can be reversed by the correct lifestyle choices, the right diet, and also moderate amount of exercise. And I don't tell people to exercise too much. I just say look at flexibility and movement, at regular intervals through the day. That will burn any little excess sugars that you have, because the body is designed for that. It's not that you just eat food and you sit. You got to burn it. Okay, so moderate mobility and stretching, moving around, important for diabetics.
Thank you, Darren. The next one is to Sanjay. Is it okay to take statins for high triglycerides? Also, which wellness resort do you suggest close to Bombay having good global standards?
Uh, so you see, we often hold cholesterol as the biggest villain and a cardiac risk marker, but in reality, cholesterol is not the villain. The real villain is the lipid particle size and soft plaque, which we have to understand. Everybody talks about cholesterol and high fats, which are actually doing harm, but in that's all been proven wrong and has been thrown out the window. So one has to understand why are the triglycerides going up, what is the other hypertensive factors, or their, other lack of exercise, or what is it that is causing it. We must understand that, and rather than just taking a pill for lowering triglycerides or lowering cholesterol, one has to understand like Daryl said, we have to get into systemic causes of why it happened and then address it accordingly. It's a customized solution. We cannot just offer a one fix for lowering triglycerides. So that's the Bombay resort. I'm not aware of. We don't have one in Bombay.
Sure.
If I were to, just give one line for reducing cholesterol, it would be same thing what I said before. Get off all these processed foods that you go to the mall for. Stop getting your food from malls from the section. Of course, if there's a organic section of fresh food, you can go and buy there. But too much of fried food, reduce your fried foods and reduce your processed food, and you'll see cholesterol dropping.
Thank you, Darren. The next question we're getting, okay. As food is so important for our health, how can we be sure that it's grown on healthy soil? What is healthy soil?
I can answer part of it, and Daryl can take it forward. I have done a so we are partners with the Dabur Research Foundation, which has co-funded our project. And Dabur Research Foundation is a US FDA approved lab where we have taken, we have 120 scientists working there. Most of them are PhDs. We have taken soil from about 200 locations in India, and we have done a soil analysis. 84% of the soil across India is depleted of minerals. So while it's very good to have organic foods, as Daryl suggested, and to have natural foods as much as possible, but in reality, the soil depletion has happened because of the over chemicalization of the pesticides have been used over the years, and they have been used in all agricultural plantations across the country, and the soil has become depleted of minerals and essential nutrients, and that is why it has become sort of more important to supplement. So you cannot really rely upon soil being good or bad, because the soil is not across India. We've seen this in experiments in the labs that across India, the quality of soil is not what it used to be 30 years ago.
Yes, thank you, Sanjay. And I would add further to that because I do, organic farming in my own around my own home. And to tell you that around my own home, this is Goa. It's near the beach, so I had sandy soil. Okay, and now if you come and see, I've got dark brown, black soil at places. So I created this soil. Okay, how do you create the soil? With the right kind of composting? I used to use cow dung and all earlier, but I don't do that since some years. I'm trying to keep it what we call, there's a concept of veganic farming. Okay, so veganic farming is without using any thing from the cow urine or cow dung, because that you have to see the logic of it. Yes, there are abundant forests and places, but there are no cows. Okay, but the bird droppings, the small animal droppings, and the crickets, the die and go in the soil, the chameleons, and all of that. They contribute to some small degree of pooping, and there are earthworms everywhere. So good soil is that you can take from your wet waste from your kitchen, which may have a lot of fruit peels and all that, so it's got more of sugars. Then from your other places, people have to see the place that they're growing as a ecosystem. And the first question is that what am I taking out of this ecosystem, and what are those nutrients returned back. You say I'm growing this purple color string beans over here, and they were growing to 1.5 foot in length. Okay, so I could see, if you start working with the soil, you'll see this. In the first time you grow a particular kind of vegetable on good soil, for the first harvest 2-3 months, you get nice deep colored. Okay, so if you're getting deep colored fruits and even bigger, for example, this, lal mat, what they call, or tambri bhaji, the normal leaves are, this is my palm, a normal leaf will be of this size. Okay, but when I do it with really good soil and it's composted, so I do natural composting, that is whatever's harvested, once the plant is left, I chop it, you chop it and drop it, and I do a system called in situ composting. So I look at the entire ecosystem. Of course, energy is coming through the sun, but you also got to bring back at least that much that you've taken out, and then the sun adds. So in your soil, if the nutrient level starts increasing higher and higher, then you will see your produce is getting better and better. That's the ideal scenario. So from 1 year back, where my leaves were growing of this size, then the next year, because I did a good job and my soil was dark colored, uh, it started going to this size, and then it's come to this size. And people are asking me that, hey, you must be putting some chemicals in your soil. You don't get such a big leaves of this. Even the the okra tree, the okra, I took the seeds from a farmer friend, the local heirloom seeds, and on his soil, they were growing to 5 and 6 feet length. But when I put it in this composted soil that I made from a combination of grasses, leaves, vegetables, and my kitchen compost, those trees grew to 12 feet. Okay, I've got pictures there on my Facebook, profile, and people have not seen okra going to 12 feet because we had to take that aluminum ladder, to harvest it. So yes, so it is, if you do good work, even sandy soil can become good soil, but it'll take you at least 1-2 years to bring it to that level. So follow permaculture practices, follow natural farming, and always have this question like an engineer, how much am I taking out of this ecosystem and how much is coming back? And the second question is, what are the nutrients that are going out, and are those same nutrients coming back? Right? That's an important question.
Thank you, Darren. There are a lot of questions about diabetics. So one question is, a 12-year-old child is on insulin shots. How to reverse that?
Is he on type 1 or type 2 diabetes?
This is not mentioned here.
Juvenile. What does he have?
But most probably, yes, it will be juvenile diabetes, so it will be type 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So that's different advice for type 1 and juvenile diabetes, and different advice for type 2.
So if it was type 1, what would you advise?
So type 1, obviously there's no beta cells and there is no production of insulin at all. They pretty much so far have to have some form of insulin, but it can be supplemented with some herbal medicines which can reduce the load. And then some herbal medicines claim to produce beta cells. I have seen 4 or 5 people in Delhi who are doing that treatment, and it's pretty effective, but does not have a FDA approval. So I don't know how universally acceptable it will be. Type 2 diabetes, we have reversed over 300 cases. You have just heard Dr. Alok Chopra, my partner, the other day.
Yes.
We've done about 300 cases in the last 1 year alone of complete reversal in 1 month's time or 2 months' time. They go off and they go off all medications.
Wonderful. So, type 1 diabetes, I've had patients and I've noticed that the islets, of Langerhans and the beta cells, they get damaged, and it happens because of parasites. Whatever I've seen, and at least 50% of all the cases that I've seen, was I asked them from the date they got diagnosed and the sudden imbalance happened, and to go back 2 months prior to that, and at least 50% of them said, yes, we had a sore throat, or we had low grade fever, or I was in a different country and I had a cough and cold. I don't know how it happened. So when you have fever, you know that there is an invasive organism that is going into your body, And certain organisms, they go to certain, certain organisms will go to your liver, certain will go to your kidney, and certain do go to your pancreas. I have heard of very few cases of a very stringent parasite cleanses, specifically for the gut and the pancreas, that have helped people, reverse those cases. But it takes a lot of work. It takes almost a year or two of knowing, and maybe all those cases can't be reversed because they may not get the right herbs, or they can't. Maybe that herb, the usual herbs, will not address a certain organism. But in general, I have seen this, that two reasons. One could be certain modern medicines that may have a damaging effect if taken up for a longer time. But more than that, I think it's microscopic parasites that get into the system and cause the damage to the pancreas. And well, the I've helped a young man, 24 years, who was on 6 units morning, then like 5 units in the afternoon, then 6 units in the evening, and 18 units at night. I've helped them with the right kind of diet, okay, with acupressure and all of that, to get it down to, I think it was 3, 3, and about 8. So literally 50% reduction in the amount of insulin, and well, he was at least happy for that. Yes.
Thank you. So now we've reached the end of our webinar. I would like to first thank Sanjay Sachdeva for answering so many questions so quickly. And this webinar will definitely be fully recorded, and our commitment is to get its YouTube views to 10,000 within 2 to 3 months. So I would like to first thank our panelists for being with us. And I would like to thank our attendees for your participation. A lot of them have been very regular. So thank you and good night.